Hey everyone, welcome to North Kansas City Community Public Schools Board of Education Candidate Forum. North Kansas City for Public Schools is a Facebook group that believes in advocacy for all students' academic and intellectual freedom in great public schools, so all students are prepared to succeed in a diverse world. North Kansas City is the second largest school district in Missouri, representing 3,200 employees, 36 school sites, more than 21,800 students, and all the diversity within our community. I'm Emily Wickener, one of three North Kansas City students, and then to the community group along with Shannon Valero and Stacy Mean. Helping us moderate this evening will be Brian Mercer, and timer will be Andrew Carrero. Both are community members and supporters of our schools. And Shannon needs to unmute herself. All right. Oh, there she is.
Okay, sorry about that. 6 candidates have shown interest in the 2 open seats for a 3-year term. We're very excited to have 5 out of the 6 candidates joining us this evening. And elections will be held on Tuesday, April 8th, with no excuse early voting starting tomorrow, March 25th. Also on April's ballot is the zero tax increase school bond. It is a $175 million zero tax increase bond issue to make improvements to facilities across the district. Further information about the zero tax increase bond issue can be found on North Kansas City Schools webpage. All candidates have been invited via their contact information provided to the district during the application process, and this will be recorded for candidates to share as well as community members, so we can use this information to make our best informed decisions.
Let me get me. Brian will read the questions. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the question after the question is read. We will rotate which candidate gets to answer the question first. Andrew will hold his hand up when there's 10 seconds left. There will be 90 seconds at the end for each candidate to have closing statements. And we were going to start with Jason, but I believe the first question will now go to Aaron.
Okay, Aaron, this is Brian Mercer.
Jason's on.
Oh, he's on? Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll read it.
Jason, unmute yourself. You get the
first question.
Sorry, Aaron.
Mute. How about that? Is that unmuted there?
Okay. Yeah, are you with me, Jason?
Well, yeah, I guess I am.
Okay, all right. For our introductions, instead of letting you guys do like open-ended, we're doing a 3-part question. So your first introduction question is a 3-part question. Why are you motivated to be a school board member? It's 1. What history do you have with the school district? And what local restaurant or eatery do you frequent?
Okay. To answer the first one, I want to be the voice for those that don't really have, that I feel a good voice currently. Those that with special needs, IEPs, autistic, stuff like that. I've got an autistic daughter, and it's a whole different set of needs that those children need. And I think that unfortunately they oftentimes don't have a voice that's able to be heard. And I would like to help with that. That's my main, I guess, primary reason for running. The second question, let's see, what is my experience? I am not a teacher or anything like that, nor have I ever been. I have coached for the last 20 years inside of the district. Many different sports: soccer, football, baseball, basketball, you name it. Pretty much have done it. So I have been speaking with parents and kids for quite a long time. So while I don't have the educational background, I do have background with the parents and the kids and everything else. Now the third one with the restaurants. Which one do I frequent? Probably margaritas.
Okay, great answers, Jason. Aaron, you're up next. Do you want me to say the questions again, or do you have them?
Please, just one more time to make sure that I got it right.
Okay. Why are you motivated to be a school board member? What history do you have with the school district, and what local restaurant or eatery do you frequent?
All right, perfect. The first one, my motivation is just really, education is the cornerstone of, where my career started. I started as a teacher, as a classroom teacher, moved through my career, ended up teaching at the university level, teaching online. So just lots of background experience. And I've just, through those experiences, just have a really big passion for public education as the cornerstone, really, of a thriving community. And I think that that's what we have. And I just, so my motivation as the background of education, but also as the background of a mother. I have 3 kids in the district at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So I'm covering all aspects right now with my kiddos. Of just going in there and just being a real support, because these kids are gonna be moving off into the community. Hopefully some of them will stay right here in our community as we continue to thrive. And so I just want to be here to be a part and help them support that and bring my history of my education, my background in education. My husband is also an educator. I was teaching in Liberty when he was in the North Kansas City schools. Now he's over in Park Hill. I was born and raised in this area. So I actually went to Chapel Hill, Antioch, and graduated from Oak Park. So, and I've also left and come back. So I've seen firsthand just how great it really is right here where we are, and, just expanding upon that as I can. And then favorite restaurant would be Longboards, always comes to mind first. That's a family bag.
All right, great job, Aaron. Roy Copeland, you're up next.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. Oh, wait a minute, am I still on mute? Oh no, I'm not on mute. So, hey, thanks for the opportunity to be able to present, and I appreciate the opportunity. First things first, why I have 2 daughters in the district. So I have a freshman at Northtown, and I also have a 3rd grader at Davison. And every time I get up and look at them, you always want to do better just for your kids. And so for that, and then when I get an opportunity to talk to the PTA groups, but then also to just getting around the community, one of the things is that, hey, we can also do our part and make sure that, hey, if we want to give and be able to volunteer and help to move the district forward, let's get out and do some of those things. And that's really the base of it. I want to continue to keep helping move the district forward. And I want to make sure that every child that goes to any North Kansas City schools has the same education, and that they're able to go out and be great, not only great citizens, but just great human beings. I own a State Farm agency here in Gladstone, so I'm a small business owner. 2 of my employees are North Kansas City graduates. One is from Staley, one is from Northtown. And I love that I'm able to help them to, number one, to figure out just what's next if they didn't want to go to college, because both of them did not want to go to college, but then also being able to provide careers in my neighborhood, and then also too in this community. So that's a passion of mine, and that's something I just want to continue. Second thing you said about, I know about restaurants, so I'm gonna jump to restaurants first. Wings Cafe, which is one of my neighbors down the road, we love Wings Cafe. And Tortilla Flats is another frequent spot of ours. I hate that they closed, but that was our 1-2 punch. What was the second question, Brian? I'm sorry. And if I have time for the second one, if not, I think I answered it all in the first round anyway. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, your time is up. Sorry, I was muted. Great question. Great answers, Roy. Jessica, you're up next.
Great. Thank you all for the invitation to participate, and also for you and your members' commitment to public education. I am motivated to be a school board member primarily because I believe that every child and every student in the district, no matter their zip code or their background or their circumstances, deserves an excellent education. And I also see the way that North Kansas City Schools is able to succeed and thrive in so many areas. And I really want to make sure as a school board member that all that same access and opportunity is spread across the district to all of our different schools. My history with the school board or with North Kansas City Schools is I'm a PTA parent, and I have a 3rd grade daughter at Crestview Elementary. I feel like I really got activated in wanting to be a school board member when the school board decided to end the extended calendar for Crestview and Wynwood in 2023. I had some questions about that decision, particularly the school board or the school administration had presented a chart that literally was just a chart you would get if you Googled bell curve. And it made it look like what had happened with the data after the beginning of the extended calendar was that it had kind of gone up, and then it was starting to go back down. And I dug and asked for what the actual data was. And what the actual data shows is that kind of started here and then just was on a continual decline. And that really made me wonder who on the school board was asking questions and what questions were they asking. So I hope that I'll bring a sense of curiosity and accountability to the school board. I
Okay.
think the restaurant I frequent most is Chapels.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Appreciate it. Dan, you're up next.
As everybody said, thank you for being hosting this and being part of this tonight. My motivation is simply I want to make sure that this district remains a school district of choice. I made the decision in mid-career to go to education from an insurance industry and never look back, and still feel like I have a lot to give back to support public education. The history of myself as a student. Went to North Clay, Northgate, and proud graduate of North Kansas City High School. Also, my kids all went to North Kansas City High School. And also, I was a proud administrator at North Kansas City High School for 19 years. Also was at Winnetonka. Shout out to them for 1 year as assistant principal. Besides my 3 kids that went to the district, I think I'm highly motivated now because I have a grandson that also is attending one of our elementary schools and doing really, really well. So I'm really proud that he's part of the North Kansas City District. Restaurant. I have a little story. Every Saturday or Sunday night, we go to Margaritas. We love the food there, but more importantly, it's the connection to families that go there. The waitress that waits on us happens to be a student I knew at Winnetonka High School. And we made that connection. We found more family connections, which is really part of what being a member of this community is about, is all the family connections and how it all weaves together to be the school district we are.
Great answers, Dan. Thanks. Carolyn, you're going to end us on this question.
There we go. Hi, I'm Carolyn Mason. Why I want to run for school board, or what motivated me to, is I retired from the North Kansas City School District in 2022. I still go back to sub. I can't seem to stay away from schools. I am a strong believer in the power of public education. I believe every child has the right to the best education, we can give them. And I have the time. And it's I feel like it's my time to give back, and I can't think of a better way to give back. My history is I started teaching preschool at Clay Platte Children's House, which is also in the Northland, in 1986. From there, I had not gone to college right out of school. So during that time, I went back to school and got my undergraduate degree. My oldest daughter graduated high school in 97. I graduated from college in 97. Shortly after that, I found my home in North Kansas City. I started at Davidson teaching 1st and 3rd grade. I was the low person on the staff, so I had to take an administrative transfer because there wasn't a spot for me the following year. And I ended up at Chapel Hill for 11 years in 4th grade, which was a good move. And I didn't have to change grade levels every year. I ended up.
Okay, Carolyn, you have to wrap that up. Sorry. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Great answers. Great answers. Okay, we're going to start with our second question. And Aaron, you're going to start us on this one. I'm not muted. I just was checking. Beyond the April 0 tax bond issue, we will be voting on soon, considering our district is growing. We will be voting soon considering our district is growing faster than most districts. What short-term and long-term plans do you have to ensure school buildings remain safe, modern, and conducive to learning?
Yeah, I actually think that the district does a really good job of getting this together. They've hired a demographer that can come in and give them some assistance on what are the changes and what can we expect, what does it look like here in the next few years, so that they can be making some really educated decisions on what needs to be changed, where's the growth going to be happening. And then also just going in and making sure, one thing they've talked about is we've done a lot of work on our middle school, or I'm sorry, on our elementary schools, but now the kids are coming from these great elementary schools, and then they're going to, Newmark, Northgate, that are older schools, haven't been updated very much. So again, they have the motto of, every student, every stage. So, just making sure that we're looking at the whole thing as a whole, and I think they've done a good job of considering all 4 of the feeder patterns while they're looking at this and thinking, from the bottom up, what changes, what have we already been able to do? And now what do we need to focus on within each pattern so that everybody is getting, those updates. And then not to mention all of the things, I mean, some of it's, the new shiny things that make you happy and excited to learn, which is really important. But then we've also got to consider kind of boring things that you don't think about, that are like updating all of the air conditioning systems and, things like that are getting ready to go kaput. Of course, there was no air conditioning in any of the schools that I went to when I went them, except for Oak Park, just saying. But anyway, I digress. Next.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Roy, you're up next.
One of the best parts that I can say that the district is doing is actually having these community engagement meetings where they're not just only relying on experts, but they're making sure that they're engaged with the district. I'm sorry, with our community members and also our community leaders as well too. I love that there's a 10-year strategic plan, and every 3 years they're going to look at trying to improve. And then the big thing for me is making sure that we're continually to invest in our communities, which means that some of the communities that may not be growing as fast are still getting new schools and new facilities. So that we're trying to not only update these facilities all the way across the board, even in the growing areas, but also to reinvest in areas that may not be growing. And I say that for the Crestview area, the area that my daughter goes, Davison area. Those are beautiful new facilities in areas that we may not consider growth areas, but still those are important areas. So I'm 120% behind what we're doing and continue to keep meeting with community members and also to parents and students, just to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students and how our students learn differently.
Great answers, Roy. Jessica, you're up.
Yeah, I'm definitely in support of the bond issue this year. And one of the things I appreciate about it is the work that they've done to make sure that there's benefits in each feeder pattern. I agree with what Erin and Roy have both said about the importance of seeing change and growth around the district. I also think it's really important, especially as I think the financial climate for public schools and North Kansas City schools might look a little different in the next 3 years than it has in the past 3. So I think looking at ways that we can make changes to buildings to modernize or create better safety for the buildings without having to build an entirely new facility is going to be a really smart approach.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan, you're up.
I think you'll see a pattern here. I also fully support the bond coming up on April 8th. I think, as some of us have said, the regreening of neighborhoods is so essential to the Northland. And as we talked about being schools of choice, having an updated school not only supports neighborhoods and wanting families to move into it, but also you're looking at the learning environment the kids come to. I know with the updates we did at North Kansas City High School a few years ago, kids were so proud. And that proudness that comes along with being in a renovated school or a new school carries on to the whole pride for the whole community of learners. Also on the learning environment, I think we just have to be very aware of what teachers are saying, what staff are saying as to what they need for their schools. There's lots of learning going on in our schools, but how that plays out in the classroom, I think the experts are the teachers in that classroom. We've done a lot for safety of schools. I know the district is very aware of the training that teachers and staff have gone under and the partnerships we have with Clay County and with the local communities like North Kansas City and Gladstone. And having that partnership is so rich for our schools, and having trained people in our schools gives me some peace of mind. I don't think you ever have peace of mind for security in schools. The last thing is we listen to our demographers for where the patterns are for growth. And I think the school district's done a wonderful job figuring out where the growth patterns are going to be and where we need to build.
Thanks, Dan. Carolyn, you're next.
The updates have been fabulous, and I know we can't because of safety issues. I wish we could invite a lot of our stakeholders in to see how wonderful those updates are. And for anybody who has ever tried to teach kids flashcards as a volunteer in those old hallways, those flex rooms in the elementary schools are absolutely wonderful. I think that we do a good job keeping our kids safe. It seems like as we go, we tweak the system that we have, different layers are added. And from my experience, it seems like we have a fabulous relationship with our law enforcement. And if we make a call, we get the quick response. Like Aaron and others said, we've done such a fabulous job with our elementary schools. I'm really, oh, am I on time again? No. Okay. We've done a fabulous job with our elementary schools, and I'm excited to see the changes in our middle school and high schools. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Carolyn. Jason, you're going to finish out this topic.
Okay, sounds good. As everybody else is, I'm in favor of the bond, of course. I think that that is probably the most important thing that people are going to be voting for. As bad as I want to win this, that's something that has to be voted yes on. It's something that has to go through in order for anything to happen with your question. I mean, for it to really be successful, it needs to be a yes. So that's the number one thing. I do think that it will be. I think that enough people care about the community and everything else that they're going to. Fingers crossed, but I do feel that they will. And that being said, with the bond, so many things. It's not a one-off deal. It's not a one-year deal. It's a multi-phase deal. So it's going to go on for multiple years. I don't know exactly how long. I didn't call it something, 5, 6+ years, and it's all planned out and planned out very well. The only thing that I could add to it that I want to see, and the reason that I'm doing this whole thing, is especially for the elementary schools, I would like to see playground equipment and other things like that geared towards autistic children and special needs children. You don't see that very often. I think that the current board is doing a great job with everything. I don't think that not having somebody with the firsthand experience with special needs and whatnot, I think that you need that somewhere on the board so that you can, get those insights that maybe you wouldn't have regularly. So.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, we're going to move on to question 3, and we'll start with you on this one, Roy. What strategies would you implement to attract and retain teachers as well as staff in our district?
The first thing is, thanks for the question, is actually how is support staff set up in each building, and understanding that have we actually begin to start looking at individual buildings, or are we just going with the one fit size blueprint? And so that would be the first question that I would ask. The easy thing that everybody would say is let's look at teacher pay, but I also believe that besides teacher pay is we have to look at truly the support systems that we have in place for our teachers. Pay is one thing, but then let's also talk about how are we supporting them in the building? How are we supporting them through curriculum? How are we supporting them through behavior intervention? How are we supporting them through special needs if they have special needs students in there as well too? I think that plays a real critical role as well too. And we have to look at those things. Also too, when we're talking about pay, we have to look at that with pay with those folks as well too, because they deserve to make a living wage. And if we're not meeting the pay criteria there, how do we then get that there and get that caught up? Well, we're meeting those needs. But I believe that that's a huge part of retention, and starting making sure that we're supporting them in the role that they're doing in the building, and making sure that each building has the right support systems in place for those teachers.
Thank you, Roy. Jessica?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, like Roy said, it does come down to more than pay. I believe that the first thing that the school board should be doing and the administration should be doing is really listening to teachers and what they need. Sometimes that is more pay. But when I listen to teachers, I hear that the NEA for North Kansas City schools feels like it has a really great relationship with the school board, and there's just not a lot of tension there in terms of getting pay needs met. I would like to see kind of an exploration of what kind of benefits and mental health support we might be able to provide for teachers, whether that's something that can happen during the school day or as a a benefit in healthcare plans. I think that that's so important in this era. And then also one way I think I might differ a little bit from the current school board or other candidates is I really would like to see the school district advocate for building specific incentives for schools where retention is more of an issue than it is in other buildings. I think there's some creative ways that the school district might be able to group together different schools at the same, like at the elementary or middle school level, to be able to provide more mentorship and even more, curriculum support across schools. So I would really like to see the creative ways that a district the size of North Kansas City could pursue good attraction or teacher attraction and retention.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan, you're next.
I think the recruitment and retention of teachers is one of our major issues, not just in North Kansas City School District, but across the country. As an educational consultant, I've worked with a lot of schools, and this is the big, big issue. As many of us said, it's not just about pay. It's about different ideas around how do we retain teachers. We've done some good work with enhancing leave policy. I know the district put a 2-week paternal leave in, which my daughter's taken advantage of shortly. So that's a big plus and a move toward the right direction. I think we can look at innovative scheduling, looking at balance for teachers and making sure that that balance helps with their well-being in that part of life. I think we could look at more benefit packages. I know that's always negotiated every year, but maybe a more critical eye on what we're doing for benefit packages. I think we need to look at support for teachers, regional resource support, and make sure they are supported in the buildings and what that looks like. And I also feel like we need to really look at mentoring and helping with career support. A lot of teachers have high aspirations, and looking at that type of career support we could give teachers, I think would be beneficial to retaining teachers. We're not just competing against other districts, Northland. We're now in a world where we're competing against corporations and other job opportunities.
Thank you, Dan. Carolyn?
Okay, I agree that it's not just about teacher pay, although that is certainly important. And kudos to our board working with NEA to keep our teachers like in the top third of, comparable districts. Another thing is, I know that I don't know if other districts are doing it, but kudos to North Kansas City for paying student teachers during their practicum or while they're doing their student teaching. That gives them a chance to experience our schools and a chance for us to hire, some great teachers. And I wish that benefit had been around when I did my student teaching. Anyway, and as far as support in the building, I know that it seems like when I have subbed in recent years, we seem to have a lot of support, like with our special ed classes, we have a paraprofessional in there. And I know that class size has always been an issue. It's really a lot for one person to be in a classroom with so many kids. And maybe even especially in our elementary buildings to possibly have, even if it's not over like what the number is, to maybe have a paraprofessional to help some teachers out to do some of the management. We also.
Okay, Carolyn, we have to wrap that one up. Sorry. Jason, you're up.
Sure. With the pay is always important. Money makes the world go round, whether people like to admit that or not. It's at least a big factor. So pay is always important. From what I understand, that we do pay in the district quite a bit higher than the average anyway. But I'd say incentive-based or performance-based bonuses would be a really good thing to look into if it's not already something that is being looked into. By that, I mean, from what I have understood speaking with teachers and all that good stuff, is that they don't, even when they have a break, they're not able to take a break. They are deciding what they're going to do and planning their next class. And planning is just as important as the class itself, because it needs to be structured right for them to learn, and everything else. And the teachers spend a great deal of time with that. Ones that I've spoken with say that they have done that, of course, after school, outside of school hours, and that's not something that you generally get paid for. So something, you know, to look into that, I think it would be highly important. So I guess that would be the number one thing that I would look for, because they need to be able to receive an income from what they're doing when they're working.
Thank you, Jason. Aaron, you're going to wrap us up on this one.
All righty. Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this topic. You know, having been a teacher and left the classroom and having so many friends and, you know, relatives that are all teachers and kind of hearing what they say, I agree with Dan. Like, this is like the number one, recruitment and retention, something that we have to really figure out. And to me, it's like, how can we help them love their work again? Because that's really what, you know, I know we're always talking about money and things like that, but you know, it comes to a point where you could pay me 150,000 or whatever, you know, a great big number, but it's not going to change what's happening day to day. That's messing with my mental health. That's making me think that I can't do anything right because everybody's just throwing things at me all the time. And I think that that's where some of our teachers are. And I think it's a tragedy because we've got amazing people and they took this work so that they could make kids' lives better, and they feel like they're not sure what they have available to them anymore. So of course, I think things like, you know, we're always going to be talking about teacher pay, but benefits, supporting them, you know, having mental health as part of their benefit package, making sure that's there. You know, the parental leave thing has come in. But I think the biggest thing is just going to be to listen to them, what they need. Each building is going to be different. How can we get them the resources they need? I know some teachers are talking about, please give me math interventionists. I sit on the board of Beacon Mental Health, and they're asking for more support from Beacon. Just all of these.
Okay, Aaron, we're going to wrap it up. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. The next question, we're going to start with Jessica. Do you believe the changes to the Department of Education at a federal level will require changes to our school district? How will you ensure students with special needs receive individualized support and resources to thrive?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely very concerned with the changes to the Department of Education at the federal level. I think I've already mentioned Title I tonight. That's an important source of support for North Kansas City schools. In some ways, we're, you know, not insulated from this change because it's a huge, you know, vacuum of knowledge in terms of education research and needs. But I do think that with the way our funding model of a lot of support coming from local taxes, that hopefully that means that we can intelligently stave off some of those effects. I definitely think it's so important right now that the candidates that are elected to the school board have the absolute trust of the electorate that we will speak for the students who are losing the support, whether it's Title I or IEP or other special needs support. And I'm definitely a candidate who will do that. You know, during our last forum, while we were speaking is when the news broke that the Department of Education would be dismantled. I think we're just operating in a different political world than we were maybe even a year ago, 1 month ago. Everything's changing really quickly, and it's important that school board members can anticipate those changes and then react really quickly to them.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan, you're next.
I would follow up with what Jessica said about it is a very concerning time to be in education, because we really don't know what's coming next. You can get so involved with what the news is saying from all different angles, and really trying to figure out the impact on our school district is still unclear. So I think we have to be pretty proactive and look at our budgets and try and target that money that may be coming from funds and have a plan B, plan C, plan D, as many plans as we can possibly have to make sure that students that would be impacted by potential grants or funds that we may lose, we have a plan. A lot of our funding does come from taxes, but I do think that a very good approach would be making sure that we do some audits and looking at what exactly may be impacted, it can change, as Jessica said, it can change daily. And that's the part that's really a little bit nerve-wracking, I think. I also want to say that what I think the other outcome of this, like another effect of this, is just the unrest and uncertainty, maybe uncertainty is a better word, of teachers right now. As much as we're sitting here tonight talking about this, it impacts teachers in the classroom of what's next. And when that impacts teachers in the classroom, it impacts learning and impacts students in our classroom. So we have to not insulate them, but certainly be aware that there is an impact on learning with all this uncertainty that's going on in our educational landscape.
Thank you, Dan. Carolyn, you're next.
Okay. Yes, I agree that we are in a time of uncertainty and it's hard to make a concrete plan. So we do have to look at where our money is coming from and make a plan in case those federal dollars go away, especially for our IEP students. And we know it costs a lot to educate them, which we need to plan for. Anyway, I think that this is one of the reasons I think that I wanted to run for school board, to help make some of those decisions and make it equitable across our budget if we have to cut budgets, or try to be really creative in trying to figure out where those funds are going to come from in case they're cut.
Thank you, Carolyn. Jason, you're up next.
Sure. I think what Dan had said was pretty good. We need to be prepared. I don't think that we need to be, I don't know what the word is. Do we need to be concerned or excited? Do we need to, we don't know enough about what's going to happen yet to intelligently be worried about it. And by that, I mean, so many things are changing and happening daily with it that we just, I don't think we know where to worry about. I think that the way to do it would be to create some of these committees so that we can get some great ideas from some other smart people. It's also a free way to do it. So maybe start some committees and I don't know, create them for preparedness, different ideas, options, stuff like that, and then they can present them to the school board or the public, and then we can kind of go over them then. But I think that if we create those committees, that will really get a lot of answers, a lot of good feedback, and we'll be able to go in the direction that we need when the time comes.
Thank you, Jason. Aaron, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know that I have a whole lot, anything different to say than what we've already heard here. I mean, it is just time of uncertainty, and we are just going to have to, know that we need to be at the ready. It's just, the board at this point is going to need to be proactive in making sure that they're learning, understanding what's going on, speaking to, local, legislators and things of, what are they hearing, what's going on, so that we can be ready and be proactive, and be making, the plan A, plan B, plan C, as well. So I do think that we're fortunate where we are here, that we do get a majority of our funding from our local property taxes. So we're going to have some gaps that we need to fill in, no doubt, if some of this funding goes away. And so we're going to have to learn how to kind of move things around. And as somebody else mentioned, that's going to be making sure that we are talking to everybody and getting the perspective of everybody. And on that note too, just the general communication when we do have this uncertainty, and you got teachers that are nervous, that is then trickling down to the kiddos, just making sure that we're staying in good communication with the North Kansas City families and the teachers to say, hey, we've got this. I talked the last time about, the circle of control. We're going to have to stay within that circle of control of, what can we control and work within that, and just do the best that we can every day for our kids, our families, and our community.
Thank you, Aaron. Roy, you'll wrap this one up.
It's going to have to be a two-part approach. And the reality is that we know that the majority of the funding comes from the state and local taxes. So with that being said, we know that we're going to have some stability there. But what this does is it creates a lot of, I would say, chaos until everybody figures this out. And even states are trying to figure out how this is going to affect them as well too. So then we do have to stay in touch with our state legislators and folks down there with the Department of Education in Missouri as well too, to figure out how even they're going to begin to start doing these adjustments. Also too, we can be proactive in understanding what federal grants and what money comes from the federal government that may not be there. So we can start being proactive and saying, okay, some of these things may have to be replaced. The last thing is, more so than anything, it's just to have the assurance that we're going to go to work and we're going to do what we need to do to make sure that our kids are educated. And we are going to make sure that there are not going to be any gaps. And that starts from the commitment of us of saying, okay, just because that's happening at the federal level does not mean that we have to either overreact or underreact at the local level.
Thank you, Roy. All right, our next question, question 5, we're going to start with Dan. And this question is, would you support or oppose changes to the school calendar, such as a 4-day school week or year-round school if proposed? Why or why not?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. I think what you have to look at that is what impact a decision that would have on so many programming and so many families. For example, I think of a 4-day work week or 4-day work week, a 4-day school week. What would be the impact on families that depend on our schools for the 5 days? What would they do? How would they shuffle that? I think of all the programs on a secondary level, such as sports, such as the partnerships we have, especially with the pathways and those things that are set up to be in a schedule that's already set. All of that being said, I think we'd have to look at obviously data. We'd have to make sure what's best for kids and what's the purpose. Oftentimes, I think change is about purpose. So we'd have to understand the why. I know a lot of smaller school districts, and I know Independence went to a 4-day school week. And honestly, I've not looked at the data, so I can't intelligently say, here's the benefits, pros or cons. A district our size, it would be a huge undertaking. We've done bigger undertakings to that in the history of the district. So I guess being in gray is where I'd be right now because I don't have the data to support it one way or the other.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate the answer. Carolyn, you're up next.
Okay, like I said, we would have to wait and see why we were making those changes. I don't know about the 4-day work week for just because of the burden it would put on a lot of our families. I have always thought not extended calendar like we did, but year-round school would always. I've always been fascinated by that. The kids wouldn't have as long of breaks. They could, they would continue going to school year round. They could have a break in the fall instead of like the 3 hottest months of the year or spring. And it would be the same thing, just, differently. But like I said, I just think that would be better for learning instead of those 3-month or 2-month now long breaks. But I would certainly be interested in exploring that if that was an option.
Thank you, Carolyn. Jason, you're up next.
Sure. I've actually talked about this one quite a bit. The going year round like that, or going 4 days and doing that year round, is pretty interesting, actually. I think it keeps teachers' jobs all year round. You wouldn't have to have the gap, for that 3 months. I think that I don't know how it works with the pay right now. I haven't really looked into that part, but I know that going year round, you stay used to things. I can only imagine that the people that drive the buses and aren't driving them for the summer, that's different, not getting paid for those few months. Same thing with the teachers and the custodial people. I would imagine that if you got to go year round, that'd be a lot more stable. Again, I'd have to look into the data too, but stability would be nice, I would imagine. Like she had said in her answer about the hottest months of the year, that is kind of a downer. And you got to stay inside, at least in Kansas City, a lot of that time because it's 108 degrees. It would be nice to have something, even if they split it with summer and fall. I think the fall is the time to get your break. You can actually enjoy it that way. But yeah, I guess I'll worry about it more when it comes up.
Thank you, Jason. Aaron, you're next.
Yeah, this is in a district the size of, North Kansas City. The number one thing that comes to mind is it has to be data driven. You've got to really dig into the data to see why would we even consider going to the 4-day work week, and the data along with that why. Why would we consider going to a 4-day school day? Why do we want to do the year-round school? And again, I don't know. I haven't done a lot of research on a lot of that. I do know that there's been schools that have gone to the 4-day school week, and I just can't imagine that that's a great option for kids unless you're kind of pushed into the fact that that's your only option is to go to a 4-day school day or a 4-day school week. Because I'm thinking, you've got kids who, their parents are working 5 days or working 7 days. What are we going to do with our kids, especially the younger ones, that extra day? As Dan mentioned, those partnerships that we've been working so hard at the high school level, these kids have so many opportunities with our communities. Would that have an effect? And then I'm also thinking just the basics like food. Some of our kids come to school and those are the hot meals that they get. You're not going to get in another day that they're not going to get a meal. And that's a real issue. Some people think that it's not an issue in the Northland, but it is. And as for the year round school, that I think is a completely different conversation. But again, you'd really have to look at the data and have a solid why for all those families out there.
Thank you, Aaron. Roy?
I would look at the family needs and how it actually affects each family. I did, and I'm talking about both issues, but also too, more so for the 4-day work week. My concern first is, okay, how's it really going to affect the students and then also the families? And then also too, then how would it affect our staff and our teachers as well too in the buildings and understanding how that works. And I agree with what others have said too, with a district of this size, that is going to be a massive project. So I would hope that we would have data driven art, but also too, community engagement to figure out, okay, is this something a viable option? Why should we want to do it? And then also too, what are the pros and really what are the cons? But right now, I don't really see a real reason. It's just from the limited resources that I have on why we should go to a 4-day work week. And I know that wasn't the question. Now, second part of the question about year-round schools. I know they did 2 year-round schools for 2 elementary schools that they ended those programs. And I was curious to see if it would have either been expanded or if they were in different areas, how would that have looked as well too. I didn't see all the data behind that driven as well too to end those 2 programs. So the curiosity is still there to really dig down and see what the factors were on both sides of it and see where the education was either increasing or decreasing on that.
Thank you, Roy. Jessica, you'll conclude this one.
Great, thank you. The 3 things I would want to look at is what's the impact on teacher pay? What are students and teachers getting out of a change to the school day model? And then how is it applied across the district? So a lot of times a 4-day school year or a 4-day school week is considered a cost savings. Teachers get paid on a contract day. And the decision to end the extended calendar at Crestview and Wynwood automatically cut 31 days of pay for all of the teachers at my daughter's school. I'm not going to support any policy that does that. I do think there's so many innovative ways to add a little bit of time or make changes to the school calendar in a way that benefits parents, teachers, students, families. One of those, it could be year-round school, whether that's the extended calendar or if that is a year-round school that has more breaks but the same number of contract days. I'd also love to see the addition of school time for students by adding pre-K for every student in the district or even down to preschool. There's also ways that you can do school. Some school districts do school from 9 to 5 instead of a different school day. Obviously, that has an impact for families, but it also can add times for more flexible breaks for teachers and more like club time or social time for students, even study halls for students. I think there's a lot of things that we could look at, but I would want to make sure that they're universal across the district. The differences between the different elementary schools was one of the specific things that the district cited for not having the impact that they wanted to see with the extended calendar.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, for our next question, question 6, we're going to start with Carolyn. The question is, how well do you think the school board is currently addressing the mental health needs of students and staff? In what ways do you think mental health resources and counseling services could be improved or expanded?
There we go. Okay. I think I hit it twice. Anyway, I think that the school board, that's one of their big priorities right now, is addressing the mental health and the emotional needs of the students. And they have tried, they've begun to put some things in place to do that. Whether it's enough right now, I mean, I certainly think it can be improved and tweaked, but we have a starting place and we could see what works and what other resources need to be added to support that.
Carolyn. Jason?
I think that it's something that the school board is doing a pretty good job with already for most students. Again, I'm an advocate for the special needs. I think that as part of their IEP and everything else, a lot of that stuff is looked at. I think that they do get a lot more support that they need through the IEP. I think it's a pretty good program. Hopefully that one is to keep up. I think that there's room for a lot of improvement with that part, with many of the students.
Thank you,
I don't know
Jason.
how.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Aaron, you're up.
Yeah, I think this is something that is so important. And as I mentioned, I serve on the board of directors for Beacon Mental Health, which is formerly Tri-County, which partners with the school districts here in the Northland. And, you know, from talk, and so I know things have been started, but I think that there is a lot that can be done still. I think that, you know, I was actually sitting on a panel one time, or I was listening to a panel of all the superintendents in the Northland. And one of the questions was, what is the number one thing that is, you know, plaguing your district right now, the thing that needs to be figured out? And the answer more than once, and from our superintendent, was addressing the mental health needs of the students and the staff. So even though we've got some things in place, we have a lot more to do. So that's something that I actually, you know, with my background and my contacts and things, would really want to start some sort of you know, some sort of committee or, you know, group to kind of get together to really, you know, address and maybe do like a little audit or an understanding of what are the gaps, what do we have, what do we need now. I know I've talked to teacher friends that have been like, man, it's great when like the Beacon, you know, people can come in and help and do that support, but it's so few and far between that it almost makes it even worse, because it's like you got this help and then now, you know, they have to go somewhere else. So definitely a huge thing that I think we're going to definitely need to address and put together a task force to figure out how we can make it better.
Thank you, Aaron. Roy?
I think it definitely has to start, number one, with for us listening and getting all parties involved in this. Now, the first part of the question was, how's the board doing? The board is doing a good job by, number one, identifying the problem and beginning to listen and try to come up with solutions. Now, the second portion is, how far do we want to go and how far do we want to continue with these things? And then can we get better? And are the solutions actually meeting the needs? Are they good starting points? And how much more can we continue to keep doing? We have to understand overall that this is a problem that's not going to go away. And this is not a problem that's a one size fits all approach. And I know I've said that about a lot of different things, but really when it comes to this, how do we really meet the needs of our staff? And then also of our students when it comes in this space? And just even talking with other districts as well too around us, everyone is really beginning to grapple with this problem. And also too, let me be quite frank, even in my business as well too, it's a problem that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So how do we begin to address those needs and come up with strong policies that are going to that are, number one, going to continue us to keep moving forward to address the need, but then also too listening so we can continue to keep helping.
Thank you, Roy. Jessica?
Yeah, I've spoken a little bit about how I think the school district can improve support for teachers, but I really want to emphasize here that teachers are my daughter's lifeline, and they always have been in the 4 years that she's been in North Kansas City schools. And we know that from data. When it comes to adverse childhood experiences, the one thing that can really make a difference in whether or not a child blossoms into a happy, well-adjusted, thriving adult is one adult that they can trust. So I think the first thing that we have to do is really support teachers' capacity to be effective, to have what they need to keep their buckets full, so that, as we say, that some of that energy can spill out and be available to their students. We also really support a lot of the wraparound services that exist in North Kansas City schools. There's such a need for this, and at some of our schools, the wait list for access to like services through Synergy services are so long. So looking for ways that we can bulk up our community partnerships and help support our community partners so that they can provide services for our students. I also think that there's a lot of good models for forming teams within the schools that can identify students who are at the greatest risk. First and foremost, that's a safety consideration to be able to identify students who are in need and get them support. But it works at all levels to ensure that students really have what they need to thrive. Yeah, and again, I think teachers are really the experts here. They know where they need more support, and I think we can help them find that.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan, you're going to end this one for us.
All right, thank you. I think the board's done a really good job, and I think that's kind of a consensus I'm hearing. I have the privilege of working also with Beacon and knowing the Tri-County Children's Fund and how they use those dollars very deliberately and driven by data as to where to help kids with social and emotional needs and how to make sure partnering with Synergy and other organizations to make sure they are doing a good job in filling those gaps that kids have. Also know that they do a lot of resource funding, and I think that might be a challenge in the future, depending on if those funds dry up a little bit. We also have done a nice job with recognizing for teachers. I know there is a employee wellness coordinator. I don't know if that's the exact position, but I know there's one on staff at the district to work with teachers and making sure that their needs are being listened to and supported. And I am going to do a little bit of a shout out to counselors. I think the role of the counselors in our buildings is really challenging. I think it's changed a little bit. I think to sustain the model we have, we may want to look at what they do, because I think we stretch them fairly thin, working with social and emotional issues, but also doing a lot of work with scheduling students, helping with some possibly other matters in the schedule and stuff, and that's a secondary issue. But we really need to look at how do we support our counselors in the model of well-being across the board for teachers and students.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, we're going to wrap up the question and answer part with this question. And then after this, we'll move to the closing statements. And this one is going to start back over with Jason. Question 7 is, what does inclusion mean to you? How important is it for our community and schools?
Inclusion is extremely important to me, especially with, again, the special needs and those types of students. Feeling included, as we know in adult life, it's important. Everybody wants to be a part of whether it be a club, whether it be at your work or whatever. Everybody likes to be included, to be part of the team. I think that with kids, it's even more important than when you're an adult. You want to be able to fit in. You want to feel like you fit in. And I think that you're able to learn better if you are feeling like you fit in. It ties into the mental health and everything else with it. So inclusion is at least that's the way that I'm interpreting the question. I think that that's extremely important.
Thank you, Jason. Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, inclusion to me is something that it should just be not even something that we have to distinguish. It would be great if we just lived in a society where everybody is just included and loved. It does not matter. And we keep having these discussions because, well, sadly, the way where our society is today. But to me, kids, everybody just needs to be seen, heard, connected, feel safe, feel supported. And that's all day, everybody, whatever building you're in. I just think that should just be, something natural, and that we shouldn't be having to argue about, well, this kid, this or, whatever. Just love all the kids and be open to all the kids. And just seen, heard, connected, safe, supported, always for everybody.
Thank you, Aaron. Roy?
It is really important. And I pause just to say that thanks for actually even asking the question. But it also starts with us understanding that it is our goal, and not only a goal, but it should be so important, each one of us, to make sure that every student, no matter where they come from, background, doesn't matter about any of that, making sure that we give them the best education possible. And how does that happen? We meet them where they're at, and we make sure that they feel included. At that time when we're all kids, and we all were kids at one time on this call, we all had those opportunities where that we needed to feel included by someone that was other than the family members that we had. And for a lot of us, and I can say this for me, it happens in school buildings. It happens with teachers. It happens with coaches. It happens with support staff. We need that happening. So it's a very important part of our fabric, because us as parents, we can't do it all. And so we have to rely on those other folks in the village to help. But it starts with understanding that we are there to not only meet those needs, but to be able to support those students for them to feel included and to be seen.
Thank you, Roy. Jessica?
Yeah, I think most importantly, every student at North Kansas City Schools belongs at North Kansas City Schools, and they need to feel that way, whether their differences are in race or ethnicity or language or religion. There's so many opportunities to celebrate students. And one thing I really enjoyed at Crestview this year was the Culture Fest, where families were invited to showcase their culture and their cultural traditions and dress and food. And the Black and Asian student groups at Northtown were there, seeing the rich tapestry of the district and reminding everybody that we're all part of that tapestry is really important. It's also important outside of just a celebration of the idea of diversity that we're considering how policies impact students in all of these different ways. So I think we've done a lot at North Kansas City Schools for DEI training and DEI statements and policies, but we really have to look at, when you make a decision, what is the impact of that decision or that policy on students who are Black, on students who are Muslim? How does the district really provide for them by making sure that we look not just at the words of what we're doing, but at what we expect the impacts of those policies to be? And so I think that through analyzing things those way are the ways that we'll be able to most protect our vulnerable populations. And I especially want to include undocumented students and students with undocumented parents in that conversation.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan?
I think that the mission of our schools should be that every student should be empowered to reach their potential. By that, I've worked at a school that had a huge amount of diversity. In fact, was the most diverse school in the state. And how we worked through that was recognizing, appreciating the contributions that the kids brought to us. Students, kids, they were kids to me. Making sure that the opportunities we gave them were equal, that you made sure that they all had opportunities to play to their strengths and maybe challenged them. But I think the key thing on this inclusion conversation, a lot of the fellow candidates have talked about it, is a sense of belonging. If they walked into the school, and sometimes school was the most safe, stable place they had in some of their kids' lives, unfortunately, and if they had that one caring adult and they had relationships that they could come and look forward to and had that sense of belonging, their potential was unlimited. But you have to work as a community to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Carolyn, you'll end us on this question.
Okay.
You need to unmute, Carolyn.
There we go. Inclusion to me means everybody gets to participate. Everybody is, everybody belongs. And I think inclusion is one of the cornerstones of public education. And I think that's why I feel so passionate about it. And inclusion benefits everybody. It teaches it teaches kids empathy. It teaches kids to understand the needs of others. I know when I have been in a classroom with children who are in wheelchairs or using crutches or walkers, it's amazing at, especially going into the sub, other children will kind of take over for me. I need to get this chair ready for so-and-so because they can't do that unless this is in that spot. Okay. And I mean, it just, it teaches us how to get along with each other and how to have empathy and understanding.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, we're going to move to closing statements. Each of you will have 90 seconds. 90 seconds for a closing statement. We're going to start with Erin.
Great. Well, thank you so much again for giving us this opportunity to share. It's always great to be able to get together with all these great people and share some of our answers and our thoughts to give the voters some more informed information. So as I mentioned, I'm here because I have just a passion for public education, and that being the foundation of a thriving community. And, I'm a longtime member of this community, like I said, born and raised. But I've also left a couple of times and come back. And when I've left, I've realized just how special this Northland community truly is. Sometimes you have to leave something to appreciate it. And so, I've seen a lot of ways of what not to do. And we're so fortunate. Also, just the background and the experiences that I've had, I think will make me an excellent member of the board. So, like I said, former educator, my background is in education. My career has taken me through, I'm still an educator to this day, even though my title might not be teacher. I started off in the classroom. I've worked and then later worked as a professional development coordinator. So working directly with the teachers and understanding all the things that they're having to do besides just what they do in the classroom. I was also in charge of the new teacher mentorship. So having worked with the new teachers hand in hand, a mother of 3 children with all diverse needs. So I think all of those things give me a good background, and I'm really excited to serve on this board. And I'm asking for your vote on April 8th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. Roy, you're up.
I want to first thank you all, the North Kansas City community for public schools, just actually having this forum and giving all the candidates an opportunity to tell their views and for us to get a chance to learn about all the candidates. I also too want to say thank you to the candidates as well too for showing up and actually wanting to run and put yourselves out there. I am excited about what we're doing in the Northland. One of the things that I had an opportunity to do was when I opened up my own Safe Farm agency in Kansas was I moved it here to Gladstone because this is home and this is my community. And I wanted to not only serve my community, I wanted to be able to hire my community, which I was able to do. My daughters go to the North Kansas City School District. My wife was employed in the North Kansas City School District. This district is very, very important to me because I see how diverse not only we are in people, but just how diverse we are just in being here at this moment right now. And are we going to be able to meet this moment? This is important for us with this municipal election that's coming up on the North Kansas City School Board on April the 8th to be informed, but then also make the right decision. I'm asking for your vote because I am passionate and I care about our kids, but not only our kids, I care about your kid. I care about the kids that haven't even come into the district yet, because I want to make sure that we all have not only equal access, but we all have the same right to a great public education. I appreciate this. I want to thank you all, and I appreciate your support on April the 8th.
Thank you, Roy. Jessica?
Sure. Thank you again for the opportunity to participate tonight. I think right now is a really scary time in our society. There's so much changing in terms of society and at the government level. And this school board term that we're all running for is going to be a pretty challenging one to serve, maybe one of the most challenging times. I want anyone who votes for me to know that I will fight for our students, our families, and our teachers. I'll fight for their needs, and I'll fight for what they say their needs are also. One thing I would like to talk about a little bit that we haven't really touched on tonight is the impact of artificial intelligence on this upcoming school board term. I'm a software engineer. I write applications that are powered by large language models, and I really understand both how artificial intelligence tools work and the ways that they are going to transform our society in the short term and the long term. With that experience, I'll be able to help evaluate AI tools critically and really understand what's gloss and what really has the ability to move education forward. I'll also be able to help the district address the ethical concerns around AI, both those that are in the classroom and those that are broader than that. And I can help guide a thoughtful implementation, especially as we look to prepare students for a future where artificial intelligence is going to dramatically shape or change the shape of needs for our workforce. So with that, I really hope that I can count on your vote for Jessica Rezac on April 8th.
Thank you, Jessica. Dan?
I think everybody said it, but I also want to add thank you for the invitation. I follow this group and read a lot of the posts and respect how this group has come about. So thank you for letting us be a part of this. This is home. North Kansas City School District is my home, has been my home, has been my career. This is my life's work. As you know, I've changed careers and I did with full intention of making it my life's work. And I still want to give back. Those are the reasons I'm running. There's some things I really want to focus on. And I've talked a lot about them. I'm number one, teacher recruitment and retention, I think, is a critical issue that the board's going to have to deal with. I also think that ensuring financial stability, not that we don't have it, but making sure that we continue with the good stewardship of taxpayers' money. And what we don't know exactly is some of the landscape that may be coming up. I want to ensure that we do have a culture of empowerment, not just for students, but also for teachers, to make sure all of us can reach the potential we need to reach in that empowerment model. And I also want to make sure that we always look at a continuous improvement model. We see that in our facilities to always regreen our neighborhoods. We see it in some of the programs we have, but also looking at the why we do the things we do and making sure we always go back to what's the purpose of some of our programming. I would appreciate your vote on April 8th for Dan Wardick. And it has been a privilege to, again, see all my colleagues that are running for board.
Thank you, Dan. Carolyn?
Okay, thank you. I'm very passionate about public education. It's very important to me. I'd be a good candidate. I've had 39 years of experience in education. I know a lot of people in the community. I've lived in the Northland for 40 years. People strike up conversations with me all the time. I mean, our people in the community. I'm a good listener, even though I do talk a lot. And I believe everybody, whether they agree with me or I agree with them, needs to be heard. I would appreciate your vote on April 8th. And before I go, I did not get to talk about my favorite local restaurant. And being in the Northland, it is hands down Taste Burger Shack. And they have added a lovely outside area just in the last couple of days. There's no longer the pokey picnic table that you have to sit at if you want to sit outside. So anyway, vote Carolyn Mason on April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. We need to get you a Tay shirt for that much promotion.
My next trip, the next time you see me, Brian.
I just want to say a quick thank you from me to Emily and Shannon and Stacy for asking me to moderate this forum. I love to stay involved in the community, and this is another chance for me to stay involved. So, and thank you to Andrew for being our timer. I'm going to see images for the rest of the night of Andrew waving at me wildly on a computer. But that is the forum for this evening. Thank you to all of our candidates that were able to come this evening. We'll be forwarding the recording to the candidates to pass along to the community. And any community members are welcome to email us, the group, at nkcparents4ps@gmail.com so they can receive a recording of this evening. Again, thank you all for a wonderful evening together.